So back in 1997, there was this magazine called Reader, and they published this just incredibly unsettling historical anecdote.
Oh, yeah. The story about Zhang Zhenduo and Lu Zimin.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So these two friends are just casually catching up, right? And Zhang suddenly asks Lu this highly specific, just totally morbid question.
Yeah.
He says, do you know how one can die the most peaceful death?
Which, completely leaves Lu speechless. I mean, it's not exactly your standard small talk over coffee.
No, not at all.
Hmm.
And when Lu obviously can't answer, Zhang just calmly answers his own question. He says, the best way for someone to die is by falling from an airplane. It's the most peaceful death.
It's just such a bizarre thing to say.
It is. It sounds like this dark, passing hypothetical, like the kind of morbid thought you might just blurt out and immediately forget. But, and here's the payoff for you listening, on October 17th, 1958, Zhang Zhenduo was leading this cultural delegation to Afghanistan.
He was 61 at the time, right?
Yeah, 61. And his commercial flight crashed, and he was killed.
Wow. Which perfectly brings us to the core mission of our deep dive today, because we are exploring this profoundly esoteric text by an author named Xue Feng. It's titled The Power of Thinking.
And Xue Feng has a very particular take on this story.
Exactly. The author doesn't introduce this anecdote as some tragic irony or, like, a terrible coincidence. He explicitly claims that Zhang's death was a direct mechanical result of his own thinking.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because that is a massive reality-bending leap.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, people have dark hypothetical conversations all the time without them coming true. We all know someone who jokes about getting struck by lightning when they're having a bad week at work. Is this author genuinely arguing that simply voicing a thought or just holding a concept in your mind literally summoned a commercial plane crash?
He is actually arguing that the thought didn't just summon the crash, it engineered it.
Engineered it?
Yeah, so to understand how he justifies this, we really have to look at the underlying theoretical framework of his text, specifically this mechanism he calls negative cosmic energy.
Right, which sounds like something straight out of sci-fi.
It does. But he posits that thinking isn't a biological process, like it's not electrical impulses firing across synapses in your brain. He defines thinking as a non-material force. You can conceptualize it almost like antimatter.
Wait, but that implies a physical interaction. If thought is a non-material force, how does it interact with the physical world we live in?
Well, this is where the concept of negative energy comes in. And you shouldn't think of negative as bad or evil here. Think of it more like a photographic negative, or like an empty mold that's just waiting for a cast.
Okay, a mold. I'm with you.
The author asserts that the universe is basically saturated with this highly reactive, negative cosmic energy. So when you form a resolute thought, whether that thought is I will get the promotion or falling from a plane is peaceful, that non-material thought acts as a positive mold.
And the universe just reacts to it.
Exactly. The negative energy of the universe instantly rushes in, wrapping around that thought to fill the void. And in doing so, it physically manifests that thought into reality.
So essentially, the path ahead of us isn't determined by our physical actions or our words at all. It's entirely dictated by this invisible casting process.
That's the claim. The text states that once a thought is firmly set, the energy of the negative universe fully aligns to achieve that goal, completely regardless of the physical improbability. It just blindly obeys the non-material blueprint you've provided.
But the author is surprisingly cagey about the actual physics of this interaction. I mean, there is a fascinating moment in the text where Xue Feng explicitly refuses to explain the exact laws governing this energy. He just cuts himself off.
He does. He states he won't delve deeper because he's terrified of what would happen if people actually mastered these laws.
Like giving someone a loaded weapon.
Pretty much. He treats this concept like the source code for reality. If average people understood the precise equations of how thought manipulates negative cosmic energy, he fears the disasters they could intentionally cause would just be catastrophic.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. It's as if he's describing the universe as a highly sensitive, deeply literal search engine.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, like you type in falling from a plane and hit enter. And the universe doesn't have a safety filter. It doesn't check if you're joking. It doesn't ask, are you sure you want to proceed? It just delivers the result. But he's hiding the search algorithm so we don't hack it.
Exactly. The universe he describes has no sense of irony. It has no morality and absolutely no self-preservation. It is purely responsive. But, because this concept of negative cosmic energy is so incredibly abstract, The author knows he can't just leave you with theoretical physics and old anecdotes.
Right, he has to prove it somehow.
So he provides these concrete, extreme physical experiments to demonstrate what happens when a human mind truly overrides physical laws.
And he goes to some wild extremes to prove it. He lays out these 5 jaw-dropping scenarios for the reader to try.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is how they escalate. They don't just defy physics. They start by overriding basic physical barriers, and then they move on to overriding societal reality itself.
Let's start with the physical barriers. The text proposes this experiment with a locked room.
Oh, this one is crazy.
It is. You are instructed to lock yourself in a room, ensuring the doors and windows are tightly closed, and the goal is to simply walk out. The mechanism to achieve this, according to Shuifeng, requires you to eliminate the very concept of tangible walls from your mind.
It's not just ignoring the wall, though. It's literally unknowing what a wall is.
Right. You have to completely erase the cognitive construct of solidity. If the wall doesn't exist in your thinking, the negative cosmic energy aligns with your non-material thought. The physical atoms of the wall cease to be a barrier, and you supposedly walk right through.
And he applies the exact same logic to walking on water. The text claims that people who achieve this aren't performing an illusion. They simply do not perceive the water beneath their feet as a liquid that can swallow them.
They step onto it with the absolute cognitive certainty that it is a solid surface.
Yeah, and because they project that thought, the universe just hardens the water beneath your feet. It's wild.
And then the text shifts from natural physical laws to human-constructed realities. This is where I think it gets even more provocative. The author introduces the bank check experiment.
I love this one.
He suggests taking a blank piece of paper, just a random scrap the size of a check, and walking right into a bank.
But you have to flawlessly believe it is a real check, right? With a specific, exact monetary amount written on it. And the text claims that if your belief is absolute, you hand this blank paper to the teller, and they will literally just hand you the cash.
Think about the mechanics of that for a second. You aren't just altering the paper, you are actually bending the perception of the bank teller.
You're hacking their mind.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
The localized reality of that bank branch has been entirely overwritten by your non-material thought. To the teller, in that moment, the paper is indistinguishable from a legitimate check.
And he takes that a step further with the invisible infiltrator scenario. He challenges the reader to imagine entering a heavily guarded, restricted location. But the method isn't stealth or wearing camouflage.
No, you just envision yourself as entirely invisible.
Right. You hold that thought so firmly that you can walk casually past the guards, completely undetected. You have rewritten their visual reality.
Which ultimately culminates in his final experiment, taking flight.
Okay, yeah. Standing on the edge of a cliff or the roof of a high-rise.
And flying to another point without gliders, parachutes, or any tools. Just projecting the thought of flight and letting the universe suspend gravity.
Okay, I have to jump in here and pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Because there is a massive catch to all of this. With every single one of these miraculous experiments, the author attaches this crucial, recurring condition. It's like the ultimate fine print.
Oh, the doubt clause.
Yes, he demands absolute zero-doubt certainty.
Let's look at his specific phrasing, actually, because the language is very deliberate. At the bank, if there is, quote, any trace of doubt in your mind, the teller will just see a blank paper and you fail. In the locked room, if even a slight doubt exists about the wall's solidity, you will just smash your face into it. With the guards, the slightest fear will instantly make you visible. And on the water, if you experience even a moment of panic, the water becomes liquid again and you sink.
So isn't this just a brilliantly constructed, impenetrable loophole? I mean,
Yeah.
if I take a blank piece of paper to my bank and ask for $10,000, I'm getting escorted out by security or I'm getting arrested for fraud.
Almost certainly, yes.
And when I complain that the theory didn't work, the author can just sit back and say, well, clearly, deep down, you had a microscopic shred of doubt.
Yeah.
It makes the entire philosophy completely unfalsifiable. You can never prove I'm wrong because any failure is just evidence that you didn't believe hard enough.
It's true. But what's fascinating here is that the author actually anticipates that exact skepticism. He knows that suggesting someone can fly off a cliff or commit bank fraud sounds totally absurd to the average person. So instead of defending the physics of the experiments, he immediately pivots to psychoanalyzing you, the reader, based on how you react to these claims. He categorizes his audience into 3 distinct mindsets.
He totally turns the mirror around. If you don't believe the text starts judging you.
It's a very clever rhetorical move. He starts with the first category, the conventional mind. He says that if you read about walking through walls and you think it's a delusion, a fantasy, or absolute nonsense, then you are operating with a conventional mind.
And he explicitly says this proves you are normal, rational, and have a scientific mindset.
He does.
I found that section of the text incredibly loaded, though. He is literally calling us normal and rational, but the underlying tone feels really patronizing. It feels like he's patting the listener on the head for needing the comfort of basic gravity.
It is 100% a deliberate backhanded compliment, because he immediately places that mindset at the very bottom of his hierarchy. He then introduces the second category, the intrigued mind.
Okay, so who falls into that one?
If you read these impossible scenarios and find yourself even slightly fascinated or open to the possibility, he says you possess the capacity for unconventional thinking. You're beginning to detach from the illusion of the material world.
Which acts as the gateway to the third category. Let's call it the ascended mind.
Exactly. This is the reader who fully recognizes that human understanding of the material world is superficial. If you read about walking on water and genuinely believe it is a plausible mechanism of negative cosmic energy, your mind has officially departed from conventional constraints.
You're ready for the truth, basically.
Right. The text promises that this specific reader is ready to unveil the deepest mysteries of the universe.
So what does this all mean for us? When he calls our skepticism rational and scientific, it really is just a polite way of saying our minds are too rigid and closed off to grasp the actual truth.
That's exactly what he's saying.
But I have to point out, this categorization sounds remarkably similar to how esoteric groups or highly insular movements separate people from their critical thinking peers. You know, you were told that the normal people outside the group just don't understand, and that your willingness to believe the impossible makes you special. It isolates the reader from common sense.
You are identifying a very classic mechanism of esoteric philosophy there. By labeling the scientific method as a lower conventional tier of thought, the author attempts to strip away the reader's anchoring reality. He is asking you to trade empirical evidence for pure, unadulterated belief.
Which is a huge ask.
It is. But he also recognizes the danger of that trade. If you actually achieve this ascended state, if you successfully detach from physical laws and unlock this non-material power, he insists there must be rules.
And he dedicates a significant portion of the text to a very strict set of moral guidelines.
Yeah.
He makes it very clear that this isn't a cosmic free-for-all where you get to casually walk through bank vaults and steal cash.
The author concludes that thinking is the most potent energy in the cosmos. It invisibly dictates life and death. But wielding it requires intense, grueling self-cultivation. You don't just wake up one day and decide to manipulate reality.
Right, he lays out two specific warnings for anyone trying to walk this path. And the first warning is about pacing. He insists you have to start small.
What's his exact phrasing there?
His exact phrase is that you cannot immediately expect to call the wind and rain. If you are impatient, if you force the universe to bend before your mind is fully prepared, you will bear all the disastrous consequences.
It is a strict warning against spiritual greed. You basically cannot hack the system for immediate gratification.
And the second warning.
The second warning addresses the nature of the power itself, and this is where it gets highly philosophical. He states that the path to attaining great power is actually deceptively simple. He writes, "Once hinted at, it becomes clear."
Because it's all just about eliminating doubt.
Exactly. Because the trick of eliminating doubt is conceptually so simple, the barrier to entry is dangerously low. Therefore, the author says, absolute compassion is paramount.
But why compassion specifically? If the universe is just this blamed machine reacting to my thoughts, why does it care if I'm empathetic?
Think of it like a massive biofeedback loop. If your non-material thought shapes reality, then reality becomes a perfect mirror of your internal state. If you manipulate the fabric of the universe from a place of selfishness, arrogance, or cruelty, then negative cosmic energy will amplify those flaws.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, it will manifest a reality that ultimately destroys you. You become the architect of your own ruin.
That actually makes perfect sense within his framework. The power doesn't corrupt you, it just weaponizes whatever's already inside you, which perfectly leads to his final, dire ultimatum. He explicitly warns the reader against arrogance and harming others. He says if you stray onto a demon path, do not blame him when regret sets in.
He is entirely washing his hands of liability. He uses a very specific, evocative, poetic metaphor to cement this warning, too. He says that if you ever ascend to these higher realms of power, you must keep the origins of your unconventional thinking rooted firmly in your heart.
Or else what?
If you forget where this power came from, or if you lose your compassion, you violate the fundamental rules of heaven. You will end up, in his words, like water without a source or a tree without roots.
It's a beautifully written caveat, but it's still essentially a massive liability waiver. It's like being handed the keys to a Formula One car before you've taken a driving lesson. The text promises you the ability to shatter the laws of physics, but immediately states that if the power consumes you, it's entirely your fault for lacking compassion.
That's a great analogy. It is an offering of limitless empowerment, wrapped tightly in a crushing burden of personal responsibility.
This has been a truly wild journey through the source material today. I mean, we started with a morbid conversation between two friends that allegedly engineered a fatal plane crash in 1958.
Quite the starting point.
Yeah. And from there, we mapped out the theory of negative cosmic energy, the idea that our non-material thoughts act as a mold that the universe blindly fills. We walked through extreme thought experiments involving locked doors, invisible infiltrators, and the absolute necessity of zero doubt. And finally, we explored the psychological profiling of the reader and the heavy ethical warnings required to wield such power.
As we bring this deep dive to a close, I think it is really worth pulling this highly esoteric text down into the reality of your daily life.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we may not actually believe we can walk across a lake or hand a bank teller a blank piece of paper and walk out with thousands of dollars. But the author's absolute obsession with the concept of doubt is incredibly striking.
Because doubt is the one mechanism in this text that feels universally real to all of us.
Exactly. Think about your own life, your career, your relationships. How often does your own internal doubt, your personal negative cosmic energy, so to speak, create the invisible walls that you continually crash into?
That's a profound way to look at it.
You might not be trying to physically take flight off a building, but how often does a trace of fear or a slight hesitation cause your ambitions to sink before you even truly begin? Even if our thoughts don't literally rewrite the atomic structure of a wall, do they completely rewrite the limits of what we are capable of achieving?
That is the thought to take with you. If Zhang Zhenduo's casual joke about falling from a plane could supposedly seal his fate, what realities are you unknowingly casting into existence with the thoughts you refuse to let go of? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring the sources, keep questioning the world around you, and pay close attention to your own conventional thinking. See you next time.